Welcome back to Bits of an Artist's Life. This is Sandy Hester. This week and next week, we are going to be looking at color mixing, and we're going to be looking at two areas that most artists struggle with the most, which is mixing darks and whites. So this week, we're going to tackle darks. We're going to look at how to make really rich, vibrant darks that don't look like they're dead and look like a wall. We want darks that breathe and that have life and color to them, and not just using black out of the tube. So I'm going to show you how to mix these darks, just a beautiful variety of rich darks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Next week, we're going to look at whites and how to make them not look like you've used toothpaste out of the tube to paint with, because using just straight white looks like that. So that's what we're going to do this week and next week. So let's jump into darks. Let me first mention this. I think when we see black, like anything black, this palette right here is black. We think that it's black. Our brain tells us black. But if I look at this, there is a mix of colors because there's reflection. And even if it is just pure black, using black out of the tube, just straight black, it's a lot like with white. Using just straight white is just, it's a real easy way to get into trouble. And what we're going to do today with this color mixing of me showing you how to move around your palette and make really beautiful blacks or darks. This is something that you will want to do once in a blue moon. This morning, I sat here and mixed all these blacks, darks, and was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this color mix and this color mix. Because what happens is, you know how I'm always talking about the piano with different things, like being able to play the piano keys with your palette, having a limited palette and know what those keys do so you're not just here. Well, we don't want to just be in the middle. An artist, a lot of times, especially beginners and even intermediate, they'll want to be just in the middle. So middle value is usually where we land. Not really rich darks and beautiful whites. Those are the areas we have issues with. And what I find is I can play the same, let's act like this is the dark over here on the piano. I can just play these two keys all the time because they're my favorites. But today I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this key and this key. So that's why I think color mixing is a great way to remind you of other keys on the palette. And today we're going to just look at darks, which I think is even harder than whites, because darks, having that contrast in your painting, dark and light and middle value, is so important. The last couple years, I've been focusing so much on value and composition, and I'm just finding it taking my paintings to a whole different level. And I think darks are super hard. We're almost like scared to put in a good dark, and I think one of the reasons we struggle with darks is because they do look lifeless and dead so often, because we may be reaching for black too often, or colors straight out of the tube that are a little too in your face, and not beautiful neutrals, and they're not usually, if we're picking just a tube color, it's not playing well with the rest of the colors on the palette. If you stick with a limited color palette, all of those work together and sing harmoniously. That's what you want to do with your darks and your lights. If you want to know more about the way I set up my palette with paint pots, the way I use acrylics, mediums I use, all of that, I have a whole online class where I tell all about that. And tips from things like how long can you leave the lids off of these pots for them to not dry up. All those kinds of things are in that online class. I'll have that linked below. But let's jump into these like eatable, beautiful color mixes. I can't wait to show you how to do these. Before we jump into the actual color mixing, I wanted to show you this page that I did. Let me turn it like that for you. Of all these darks, or we could think of them as blacks. The only actual full-on black is this and this. I did a nice swatch, which we'll do that on this one also, because I wanted you to see just how dead this looks compared to all these. There's a breathability. Even this one that I did kind of thinner, it still just doesn't have life and does not breathe. When I mean breathe, like you can kind of see through it. You want your darks to be a little bit see-through It gives them a little more life and oomph to them. But you can see these look like just maybe a green, a red, a yellowish, but when you put them in a painting, they just read as black or dark. Let's see, I also wanted to show you the paper that I'm using. I'll be using this FABRIANO. I really love this. It's hot pressed, 140 pounds, 11 by 14. It's what I did the swatch page on. And then let me tell you my color palette. So I'm going to use a pretty limited color palette. White. I've got two different yellows in here. This is Cad Yellow Light, and this is probably like a medium. Most all of these are Liquitex Soft Body. This is, I always forget the name of this one, Yellow Oxide, and then I'll also have a darker kind of yellowy, which is just raw, I can't even read that now, raw sienna. This one's raw sienna, and then I've got a Cad Orange, and then this is burnt sienna, this is magenta, this is Cad Red medium, this is burnt umber. This right here is Systems 3 De La Roni Emerald Green. Any emerald green will work. I just have liked these. Then here I've got two blues just because I was using up an older tube of blue, which is cobalt blue, but I usually lean towards French ultramarine. This blue right here, I do find this to be a convenient color. It's about the only convenient color I have on here. Brilliant blue. It's basically phthalo blue. Right here is phthalo blue. It's basically phthalo blue with white. So if you have this, you can make that. In fact, that may be what this is. I may not have squeezed this out. I can't remember, but it looks the same. Then this right here is Dioxazine Purple, though it looks black. And then this is black. Now you want to be careful with your blacks. So I do have black on my palette, and you'll see why. But you want to make sure that you have a true black, not a bluey black. And the way you can tell that is if you add a little white to it. But ivory black is just a good standard. You're going to be just fine with it. In fact, let's just test my ivory black while we're here. It's probably mucked up a little. Let's add a little white to it. Yeah, so see, it's not bluey black at all. It's just a gray right there. I've got a water bucket here. This is always my dirty. I'll have one here for medium dirty and then a clean. And I have a rag for drying off my brush. And then the brush that I'm using, it really doesn't matter what brush you use, but I'm using, so I usually can't even tell what I'm using because it's so covered up with paint. This is a Princeton Velvet Touch Oval Mop, and we have no idea what size because we can't read it. That's what I'll be using. Let's now get started in mixing our colors. Okay, let's start working on this. The very first thing that I want to do is put a thing of black down the side here, just so we can have that as reference. And then the next thing I want to do is think about how we want to proceed with this. You can do this any way that you want, and you don't have to have the colors that I have. Okay, let's think about the color chart. So on the color chart, we have yellow, red, and blue. Let's first start with what makes really nice blacks is just using the complementary colors. So let's start with maybe green and red. So yellow and blue make green, which are across the street. So red is across the street from that. Then what we'll do is look at like red and blue make purple. So adding what's across the street, which is yellow, makes a nice one. And then what do we have left? Oh yeah, orange. Yellow and orange. I mean, yellow and red make orange, so blue's across the street. So that can be our little guide. So let's start with red and green. And when I say red, that can mean burnt sienna, that can be magenta, or like red or even orangey red. Any of those will work. So let's just take the purest of these colors, which is red and green, like red, Christmas red, and Christmas green. I'm not going to label these because that will take forever, and that's just not how I like to do color charts. I feel like color charts should not be tedious. So let's add more green to that and get a nice dark. Now I'm not going to do this with all of these, but let me just show you if you do add a little white to that, or even this mixture where it was a little more red, you do get much more beautiful neutrals than if you used like, black and white. So just keep that in mind. And you can get some really nice lights also if you use these mixtures. So you may want to have another piece of paper and do some lights with these mixtures. Okay, let's take this red, which is burnt sienna, with our green. Get a little bit, just a little bit different color. And then if you add just a teeny smidgen of black to any of these, which we'll do some, you can get a little bit more neutral. We're going to deal with black and how you can add black to these a little bit later. Okay, what about magenta and green? You'll see you get a nice like purple. It makes a really beautiful neutrally purple. Or a more neutral green, kind of a nice shadow color green. But again, if you were doing like a shadow of a tree and you used black, it's going to look really dead, where if you use something like this, it's going to be a lot more alive. I'm going to add a little more magenta to that with a kiss, just a kiss of the black. Those are the reds. Well, I don't know. Let's use this as a red, and this is not going to get you as dark in art. This is going to be more of a medium, so I'm going to add some black to that. I think what I want to do also is, as we go along, put a black, just the pure black right here for comparison. I'll try to remember to do that. So when we have our whole sheet filled, you'll see what that looks like. Okay, let's move on to blue and orange. They live across the street from one another and they really like one another. Let's just use pure blue and pure orange. You're going to see we get a beautiful green. We add just a kiss of black to that. What does that do? And let's make it even a little more on the orangey side. At the end, we'll take this to black and white and you'll see the value. This is thinner, so that's actually going to look lighter, but it was a transparent mixture. But you'll see that even this color, which is very, I think your brain would say that's a medium, like mid-value. But when you put it with all these, it looks great. Okay, let's take a different blue, which this is my phthalo, which is very punchy. Like, you got to be careful with phthalo. It's a lot. It'll take over your palette. Now, another orange that we can do with our blue is also this burnt sienna. That's kind of in the orange family. This makes the most amazing black or brown, but black. This is kind of my, the piano key. This is one that I just go to all the time because that right there is such a nice black, but it has such depth, and that's a beautiful black also, but a warmer black. Like, you don't have to add any black to that. And then if you add white to that, look how pretty, much prettier gray than just black and white. Okay, let's do that burnt sienna with our phthalo and see what that does also. See, again, really beautiful. This is actually, if you thin this color out, it's a beautiful, like, ocean color. Look at that. And if you added white to that, that would be really pretty too. Okay, let's push that mixture. Was that my mixture right there? Yes. To a warmer, it's kind of a green. Let's say you don't have an orange or a burnt sienna. You can make orange by just doing this. Red, so you could go dip, dip, dip. This is how I paint very often. And get your orange that way. Okay. So if you really wanted a limited palette, that would be a nice way to do it. Now let's do our purple. So purple and yellow. I'm going to take just straight dioxin on purple. And let's just go for either one of these yellows. It doesn't matter. Now this is quite medium, but it leans towards the medium value, but it's still quite dark. But I wanted to get kind of a yellower, lean towards the yellow. And then look at this. Let's bump this right up to the black. So when that dries, you can see how beautiful that is. Let's add just a little more yellow and get a darker. I feel like I do need to bump this darker, but that still is warmer. That's one of our yellows. Now, we can also use either one of these yellows, the yellow oxide, which is a little bit opaque, so it's going to make it a little bit lighter. Actually, I wanted to add a little black to this too so we could see this, what that does to it, which makes it beautiful. Or our raw sienna. Running out of space here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now what if we did a purple like this, where we mixed our purple, which is French Ultra and magenta, and then added a yellow to it. You can do that also. Those were transparent colors, so a transparent is going to in some way appear lighter just because it breathes and it's transparent, but for a black you do want that, or a lot of times you do. Let's see, what about a purple where this is mixed with our ultramarine, and then let's add some of this, our ultra and that cad. Beautiful. Man, that's a nice mixture. I don't reach for that note very often on the piano. I don't mix my purples a lot of times with that, but look at that. I feel like let's go transparent with this. I feel like we should bring that over here. That's gorgeous. Ooh, note to self, Sandy. That's a good mixture. That is a really good mixture. So now what you could do is have, if you wanted all your blacks on one page, that's fine. But then if you wanted to keep pushing that and see what else it does, you could have another piece of paper to collect those colors. I mean, look at that, is a gorgeous brown, or like a tree color. You know, I think we've covered our color charts. Well, why don't we try this phthalo and red to make a purple. It's not going to make a pretty purple. Actually, just even that. Have we done that color yet? That kind of almost makes a purple in itself. That's yummy. Hello. I think in person, you're going to have to see these in person, so I do hope you mix that yourself. Even if we add some white to that, that is going to be a dark enough. Now what if we add some yellow? What was that? This and this. Let's add this yellow. Beautiful, beautiful. Wow, beautiful. I feel like I need to show that up close. So pretty. Okay, I'm running out of room here. You get the point with that. Now let's add black to some things. So another piano key that I go to all the time for my black is French Ultra and black. You really just cannot go wrong with this color. I'm going to do it kind of thin so you can see that there. Let's go a little more aggressive. If you add the French Ultra to your black, first off, it makes like a Payne's gray, but it gives some life to the black and doesn't kill it, doesn't make it like dead. Let's go on and add just a block of black right here. Let's go through and just add black to some of these colors. I feel like people tell you never use black, and it scares people away from black. But if you use it correctly, it's really wonderful. You get some nice neutrals. Black, and this is not gonna make it very dark, like as dark as you would want, but this makes such a nice kind of green. Have we already done that color? Let's just go through and add black to most of these colors. Don't be afraid, like if you get kind of a medium color, to just put it down so you can see what it looks like. Gorgeous. That's a yummy brown. Now, this is gonna be pretty too. I think you're gonna be surprised what black to magenta does. It makes it a nice dark, but also like a purple. That is just beautiful. Like a really nice neutral purple. Let's add a little white to that just because I think when you add white to it, you get to see a little better what it is. Isn't that pretty? If you keep adding white to that color, oof. Beautiful color. Okay, I think you're gonna be happy to see what black does to cad red. It makes it beautiful, is what it does. So pretty. Oh, you know what we didn't do for our red? We've left out raw umber. We need to come back to that. If I have to do it on another page, I'll do that. Okay, what other colors do we have? Well, let's just do raw umber and black right now. I think that's not probably too surprising what that looks like. So like for our reds, you know, when we were doing green, yes, see, I forgot to do that. Green with burnt sienna, blue with burnt sienna. I completely left that off. Sorry, burnt sienna, we'll do you in just a minute. We'll get to you. Let me try to make these a little bit smaller. So there's black and green. We already did black and blue. Oh, this is another color I forgot to show y'all some things with. Okay, but black and this color. Are you ready for some happiness? Look at this. Again, that could slightly read on the mid-tone, mid to dark, but it still reads as dark. Once all this dries, I will show you this. Who else do we have left? Let's see. Did we already do phthalo in black? I don't think we did. Maybe we did already do that color. Let me go back and show you raw umber. So you can use that as a red. So think about this again, green with our red, a brown equals a red. And that makes a beautiful, beautiful color. Ultra, and that again, beautiful neutral. It's a nice way to make a dark, but a neutral. And you can do it with all these colors. This is not going to get as dark probably as what we would like, but it's worth being on here. I'm going to let you do some of this yourself. Go back through with the raw umber. Let me show you this though, because this is so nice. Raw umber with the phthalo. Lickable. That is full on lickable. Let's do it with this color. This is again not going to be super dark, but it will still read as dark. Yeah, see? Okay, I'm gonna let this dry and then we will come back and assess the beautimousness of all of this and we'll turn it to black and white and I'll show you how beautifully dark these are. Okay, let's take a look at these. This is the one that we did together. And then this is the one that I did before we did it together. So pretty. I just think they turned out so good. Last night I was doing a painting and I had a dark background. I'm not done with it. If I get done with it, I'll plop it in here and show you. But I actually pulled these two over to my easel because I wanted to be reminded of what I could get with my darks. So I'm hoping the camera's picking up like all the beautiful darks and the texture that I was able to get by just layering up the colors, and they're transparent, so they do breathe. So it's very moody, like this branch is just a little bit lighter in value than this back area, and lots of beautiful color in that. And the color sheet that we did is what helped me and reminded me what I could get with my darks. Like even that right there literally makes me want to go paint right now. I was doing like an owl scene with a night background, and this just was reminding me how I can just get some depth and color in my darks. Let's turn this now to black and white so you can see like the value of these and what they look like. And I think you'll be able to see the like wall or just lack of depth that the black here makes. So here they are in color, and let me switch them over to black and white. I'm going to go back and forth to color black and white so you can see them. Look at how much breathability these have compared to the blacks straight out of the tube. I mean, the ones straight out of the tube are so dark. You can also see how when we mixed our own colors, we get dark, but it's not black as night. And when you're able to mix your own blacks or darks in your paintings, you're going to be able to have more range with your value. I want to show you some paintings now that I've done recently and just how much flexibility I have with my value range when I don't go so dark with my darks, when I have some control over it. So in these paintings, you're going to see the darks, whether it's in the big areas or look around at the little areas, and how I'm dealing with shadows, how I'm getting some breathability there, some life, some beautiful color, but I'm not using black out of the tube. And you'll see how much more it just brings a painting to life. But you do have to practice those and not be scared of putting a dark in also. I just want you to also see how you don't have to use black out of the tube and how it doesn't have to be so dark. Bring it up a notch and practice your values. Our next video, we're gonna look at whites or real lights and see how to mix those, how to get life and color, and how to make colors that don't look like they're coming straight out of a tube of toothpaste. So make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss that video or any others. I'll see you in 2 weeks.